Yo, what's going on YouTube? It's your girl Alicia X Life, and today we're gonna be watching Rosemary's Nocturne trailer. Which didn't I already see this? I did, but recently I guess I never really talked about this much. But I've been playing violin for 17 years. I'm also a bassist. I've been playing electric bass for 11 years. Um, so I guess I never really told you guys about any of this. I also went to music school my entire life. I started going to music school when I was about 7 years old, all the way till like I was out of high school. Like I was in music school my entire life. So yeah, I guess I never really talked about it. So I'm gonna start doing music breakdowns because y'all asked for me to do it. So um, we're gonna get real nerdy about it, I guess. Um, but if you have any questions and stuff, please let me know. For a little bit of background history about my musical experience, I've played in orchestras, I've played in symphonies, I've played in alt jazz bands, and I've also done a lot of solo work. So solo work is one of my favorite things to do. I also do a lot of duet work, which were probably my two primaries of what I did. My favorite pieces and my favorite, like, I guess, sort of movements would have been back when I used to play a lot of Vivaldi and a lot of music from the Baroque period. The Baroque period is my favorite period of music to play from. So there's just a lot of layers to it. Anyways, before I get into all of that, though, make sure to hit the subscribe button, turn the bell on for notifications. I go live here slash upload daily for Honkai Impact and Genshin Impact content, and hopefully a little bit extra on the side. Let's do it. Dude, what? I just realized I'm playing chapter 18 right now in Honkai, and this is literally chapter 18's PV, isn't it? Huh? This is literally chapter. Huh? I'm gonna skip this part. I'm gonna skip this part. Should I close my eyes? Damn! I've already reacted to this, but I forgot. So I don't know if I want to look at this right now. Oh, good. Oh, good. We're good. Okay, let's do this. Let's do this. Oh, God, we're safe. Chat, that's a Monka S, bro. I almost messed up. We're good now. So something to talk about initially, just at the start here, right? Is that when we have an intro, right? When we have like an interlude to a song, um, a lot of the time it dictates what we're going to be getting into, right? Usually in your first part, you establish your key signature, you establish a lot of like base rules for your piece. This changes a lot per movement, and obviously is altered through changes in key signatures as well, right? So that can happen throughout a motion, even before it gets to its next phase. A common thing with Honkai songs that I've noticed when listening to them is that we go into a three movement segment. So what makes the difference between a thing called a song and a piece is that a song is that with lyrics and composition that revolves around non like non-instrumentation background, and a piece is done purely through movement and motion in the song itself without using vocalization. So when I refer to a song as a piece, it is still it's what you would call a song or an OST, and what I would call a piece as a musician. So just so you guys understand, lingo wise, what I'm talking about, a movement is the sections in which a song is broken up into. So, for example, if we're listening to movement one of a piece, it could be done in like viva breve, which is like where you play really fast and play loud and passionately, and you play as fast as you can, which is like the literal translation. You just kind of go for it. You full send it, right? There's things like that, usually done often in the third part of a movement of a song. Usually, how most pieces work traditionally is you'll have your first piece, your first movement within a piece being like your build up that establishes the groundwork for what your piece is going to feel like, the essence of what the thing is about. Your second movement is your emotional part, where you're either getting the element of a breakdown where things feel as though your emotion is being provoked, right? It's leading in to what your viva el breve, what your third motion tends to really give you that, oh my god, right? And the reason being is that in music theory, is that when performing in a concert and performing a piece, most people remember how you started and how you ended. So what like what composers tend to do is they leave you on a high. They leave you on one of the best parts of their song intentionally. In their middle section, they are just trying to accent that part. So what you're going to feel is as the evoking of emotion in second movement, the establishment in first movement, and then us going, oh my god, in third movement. Let's get into it. So here we are in movement 1. Because Honkai tends to do 3 movements. You don't have to do 3 movements in a song. You can do 2 movements or even just 1. But Honkai traditionally does 3 movement pieces. So. Oh, baby! So, in Honkai, as well as Genshin, they tend to use a symphony and not an orchestra, which means you're going to hear a lot of outlying pieces of instruments that are not just violins and string instruments and violas and cellos and such. You will hear outliers with that little oomph. And, for example, we had a Spanish guitar playing in there as well. Right? So here kind of just like flirting in there, the little Spanish guitar and the feeling and like the zest of it all, for sure. Oh, okay. I got winded. Hold on. So you'll notice that dramatic shift, right? The dramatic shift happens right here. So listen for it. It's like dun 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 dun. And then you feel the instant dying of a note, right? It goes dun and it fades out, and it's just a glimpse, right? It's just a little taste, right? And that hit, that intentional dimming of that note is what is setting you up for that massive drop. The swelling you normally get is not seen here, right? What they're trying to do is kind of pop it in, right? Because you only hear that one violin, that first violin, going, bah! Right? And then it's gone. It dimmed out. It's gone. Now the rest of it, the second violins in that section, are pulling it through, right? They're giving life and swelling up without that insane piece coming back in just yet. They're saving it for you. You know, you gotta savor it. You can't overuse it, right? Right? And that's the thing, is that the absence of sound is sometimes the most strong of sounds, right? And that's something that I am a strong believer in when I listen to music, is the absence of sound. Choosing in your audio engineering when you want to intentionally put a sound in. And that's what they did here, was that instead of swelling, then dropping it on us, it's flirting. It's flirting with us. Small snippets of what it wants to introduce into the main section here, right? But what it does differently here, right? What it does super differently is that it pulls everything out. It's not just about regressing into a smaller subsection of the orchestra. It's about pulling it out and just putting in that little background Spanish guitar that we had flirting throughout the piece, just using that isolated, right? And that's why the drop hits different. And that's why we're able to go, oh, snap, it did what? Because one, it established the violin earlier with the diminishing sound off the one note. And then two, well, technically it was a slurred note, but anyhow, the diminishing sound off of it. And then it took it away from us. And it was like, nope, you don't get to have it back until we get to the main part, just so you know it's there. So it hits you harder when it shows up. And the Spanish guitar, we heard it throughout the piece already. So when you pull everything away and it shows up, it makes sense to your ear. It doesn't feel out of place, right? It just feels natural and it feels chill. And then bam, it goes like instantly, right? So let's go listen to that again. So like now you're wondering is like what is the decision making behind a lot of this? So when getting to this part, right? It's the payoff. So the rest of it is all about keeping the momentum of what was established throughout while that one person goes hard in the paint, right? So your first violin, their job, their job in this moment is not just one to flex, right? But it's actually about making sure that they can establish like everything that was built up into this moment, which was one, the Spanish guitars putting in their work to make sure that they created the foundation of what the second violin section is putting in now, and two, that they are able to maintain the level of charisma throughout the song. So like you'll hear like smaller parts in the background where it's like digga 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 da 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 da, which when you hear stuff like that, that is actually so in orchestras. There's well, in symphonies in particular, because this is a symphony, not an orchestra. But in symphonies and orchestras, there's multiple violin sections. So it's not just one section, and then the section does different parts or whatever, and there's one soloist. There's actually a main violin section, a second violin section, and even a third violin section, right? So the job of the first violins is to carry out the chorus, to carry out the main parts and the most difficult parts within a song. Usually sometimes the second violins can be also in a very similar element, but usually it's your first violins. They're putting in the crazy line work, right? For example, this part where it's like dun and it's like giving it that whole like insane like power would be done normally by your first chair and your first section leader, so of your violins, right? Then the background stuff where it's like digga 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 da da da, like stuff like that, that's all done by your second violins, right? The whole section itself will be working together at creating the dynamic between the two, so that you can carry out the richer part of the song while the other part is still able to be shining the way that it is, which is why you normally stick to the lower tones without ever entering to the other territory. For example, when we hear the E note, right? When we hear the E note played and the B, the way they do vibrato on the B is incredible. So let's go back. You'll hear it yourself when you hear it. So right, and that's where we go into our next part. I hope I'm not boring you guys, but that's where we go into our next part where it's like now we add wubs in. And you're like, Alicia, how do wubs work? How do wubs work? Like, you're talking about, like, you know, it being a piece, it being like an orchestra, a symphony, right? Two different things. But you're talking about it being a symphony. But what happens when there's wubs? How does that play a part in it? Well, let me teach you a little bit about when it comes to audio manipulation and post. So, for those of you who don't know, I used to work in a sound studio. So, so when they choose to go in, right, and they decide to make it go wub wub dub dub, wubba lubba dub dub, if you will, right, is that it's not actually the removal of everything, it's taking it in and going, okay, what elements are the highlight of this piece, right? We established diminishing violin, we established it as our main violin, and it being the primary. So we're going to keep that consistent throughout it, but what can we change up? They actually decided a really cool element here, and I wonder if you guys can hear it. If you can hear it, let me know. So it might be a little bit overpowered by the bass to most ears. We know how I was talking about like the second violins going digga 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 da 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 da, like in the background. They're just kind of giving it that like richer feeling. They're keeping that within the wubs, right? It's just held longer, right? So what they do is, instead of picking every single note alongside what they were doing with the second violins initially, what they're doing instead this time around is they're picking out almost every I guess accenting note to a degree. So it'd be like within your time signature, they'd be picking out, for example, if this might be 6/8 time, based on what I'm hearing, it might be 6/8. Anywho, but they'd be picking out like your first sound. Oh my god, my arm tracking. They'd be picking out your first sound. Oh, can I get it back? Is it good? No, it's not. They'd be picking out like your first sound within each part. So instead of going like it'd be like da da da. Like it like goes more so with a slower feel, but creating the same initiative. Just choosing to hold notes instead in the background, right? And it's like the reason why it'll still feel fast paced is because what I talked about before. Like the absence of sound, which is why I always found dubstep incredible, was that they choose the absence of sound so well. And you're like, what do you mean absence of sound? I'm hearing stuff all the time, Alicia. I'm hearing stuff all the time. Well, you notice how before I was going digga 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 da da da. Well, what they're doing instead with the dubstep this time is that instead of going da ga da, like I was explaining, like digga digga, they go da da da. Every second sound that you normally would have had there, they just pull the sound out. Ready? So listen to that dubstep line again. So instead of it being like digga 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 da, it's like da da da, and it's like da 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 da. Like it's hard to explain, but I hope you guys can hear it. You'll hear them literally pull out the sound over and over again. Chicka 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 chicka. Like you hear that part? Like chicka chicka chicka. It's like chugging along because it's cutting out the sound in between each of those parts, intentionally. Chicka 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 chicka. Like it's like that bassy buzzing sound in the background because it's emulating what the second violins were doing previously. And now we're hit with the synths, right? And it's like, okay, so we're talking about all these different elements. Now the synths hit different, right? Because they're creating that rich background that we need now, right? Because we have our accenting parts now. We have our main line carried through. Da na 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 na, right? Da na 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 na, and it goes like that intentionally, so that way we're just still being held through on the same melodic melody. So the important part about when doing that is you cannot overpower your violin, right? Because that's your, as I said before, when you establish what your main focus is, you can't deter from it unless you switch your movement, and they haven't. So they just kind of bust it in here, right? Kick down the door, motherfucker playing that violin, right? But at the same time, respecting the piece. They're respecting the art of what they did and what they established early on with the orchestra. So now we talked about, right, was that different movements. This is where we enter into a new movement, right, within a piece. And you're like, whoa, this song changed, right? It feels like a whole new song, right? And it's because we've entered a new movement. That's where your key signatures change. Your time signatures can even change if you want to. It's where it takes flight. So remember how I told you about how second movements, right? Second movements are all emotional. And I was telling you before, right? Was that Honkai does 3 movement pieces. We had our establishing movement. We have our emotional movement, and then we're going to have the pop off later, right? Which is exactly how a lot of famous composers make their songs. So during our emotional period, this is where you try to well up and evoke as much emotion as possible. This is often referred to as your slow movement. So something that they're doing here as well is they're actually taking from a Vivaldi style, in which they chose to go with, it's actually used in Vivaldi's Concerto in A minor. It's used in Vivaldi's Concerto in D minor. It's also used in duet for two violins by Vivaldi as well. It's a commonly used Vivaldi, I guess, sort of influence that they're putting intentionally into this movement. And the way that it mimics that style is brilliant, right? Because you wouldn't often use that when doing something in relation to a Spanish guitar feel. So that's what kind of creates it to be its own dynamic. And that's the reason why this piece is so smart, right? They're taking concepts you wouldn't normally put together and going, hey, why don't we try it out? Why don't we try dubstep, Spanish-influenced music, and Vivaldi's music all in one and give it a shot? And that's something I really respect with the audio engineering of this game. All right, so here we go, right? Dun 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 dun. Right, so let's go back to that part again. Oh, it's a 4/4 time signature. So what you'll notice too was the accenting note, right? You feel that crunch, the dig in, the dun 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 dun. Like that's done. As I said, for building up to the absence of sound, because we got it again, baby. Right? Again, every time they want to create the small interlude, remove all sound, just the Spanish guitar, right? Bring it back in. It needs to be reintroduced before we get to like this final push, right? And that's what they're trying to do here. And now we're back, right? I hope this helped you guys with understanding how in-depth this music is. I feel really bad. It's a very long video. I talked a lot. I'm sorry. And let's just go back to this part here. So one thing you'll notice there is that it intentionally imitated a duet, for as if a first violin and a second violin were reciprocating to each other. So what the first violin was doing was like the build up, the response was done by a synth, that would have been normally what a second violin's placement would have been, and then it goes to the removal of sound again. Just such a well done piece for sure. I hope you guys liked my analysis of 4.2 Paul and Rosemary's theme song. I've never done something like this on stream before, so hopefully you guys like it. For those of you watching it as a YouTube video, I hope you guys learned something today, and I hope it was fun for you. If you have any questions and stuff, let me know. And thank you so much for watching. I know it was a long video, so I really, really appreciate it, and I hope that was cool. Yeah, if you want me to do more music analysis and to like break down songs further for you guys and stuff, let me know. I'd be super down to do it. I just don't know if you guys are cool with it or not. But yeah, if you want more music breakdowns, let me know in the comments, and I will try it again. Alright, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to love yourself and the people around you, and always drink water. Make sure to love yourself as much as I love Chef, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Goodbye! Goodbye!